Hey guys, I'm Craig, and today for the Surfboard Guide, we're going to do our full review on the Jawnt by Justin Ternes in Dark Arts Construction. So this here is the Jawnt by Justin Ternes in Dark Arts Construction. You might have seen a few weeks ago we put out our initial thoughts on the Jawnt. Our initial thoughts was had a few surfs on the board, want to get some feedback off you guys, what you want to see, fins, what you want to learn, kind of help design the full review we're doing today. So thank you to people that reached out, recommendations about fins, want to see twin fin, quad, thruster, all that sort of stuff. Wanted to see the Dark Arts Futures fin set, which we've got a set of, and learn a little bit more about the board. So to break it down, a lot of questions I got. Justin Ternes is an amazing shaper from San Diego in California, but he is also the man, maybe a few people, but mainly the man behind Dark Arts Construction. So Dark Arts is this amazing carbon wrapped EPS construction, which you probably have seen, hopefully in some Justin Ternes boards, but you would have seen under the feet of John Florence, most recently Italo Ferreira, Felipe Toledo's, I think, world title winning board that he surfed at Trestles last year, Kanoa Igarashi, a bunch of different album boards are in Dark Arts Construction. You would have seen with Josh Kerr and that. So Justin shapes his own boards under the JT label, but also is responsible for the Dark Arts Construction, which you're seeing, on Piazels, Sharp Eyes, albums, most recently Timmy Patterson's, AJW does them as well. Like lots of people are using Dark Arts Construction for an alternative EPS and carbon construction. The reasons for that, it's really light, it's really lively, and it's really, so far, feels really strong. This is my second Dark Arts board. You would have seen our review a while ago of the Dad bod. So it's kind of cool to check out something that was very small and now something which is much larger. But yeah, that's a little breakdown on Justin and Dark Arts. So anyway, this is the Jawnt, which is what he calls his speed egg. I'm going to call it a bit of a mid-length, turn into a bit of a mid-length guy, as you're familiar. My journey started with a chilly mid-strength, and now it's got me down a bit of a rabbit hole of struggling to ride a shortboard again because I'm getting a lot more weight and still able to have a lot of fun on these things. But look, looking over the Jawnt, pretty common kind of mid-length front end, a lot of volume and width still through the nose. Still has a pointy nose at that very end. Doesn't go into that roundish kind of mid-length like nose that you'd find in a lot of more, say, Malibu inspired mid-lengths. So a bit more performance outline through the front. Holds a pretty straight rail line through the center of the board. And then it comes into this super tight and narrow pin tail. So chatting with Justin when I picked up the board in San Diego, I believe, I hope I haven't got this wrong, he picked up an old Skip Fry shape from like a garage sale, and he was kind of frothing on the back end and a few things of the board and kind of pulled a bit of design from that, and that came into this Jawnt. Looking at the rocker, it's pretty low rocker, bit of flip through the nose, bit of lift, didn't at any time feel too flat, so enough lift to keep out of trouble, steeper, bigger drops, suckier sections, a little bit of tail lift, nothing too crazy. Feel like there's a little bit of tail lift that's actually shaped through the V out the back, but I'll go into that a little bit more detail. On the bottom, I couldn't kind of find anything online about exactly what's on the bottom, but from feels like there's a single that comes through the front, and then you can feel like a bit of a V start to rise about halfway through the board, just behind this little Jawnt decal. Feels like a V starts to rise, and I don't know if it's an actual just a V or a V through a double. It feels like there's a gentle double off the sides here, but it feels like the center, the top of the V would be higher than the rail line. So, a gentle double, but a V through the center, and then it actually, it flattens out through the back end there. So that tail is nice and pinny and very narrow, but that V, you normally see a lot of V's flow out through the tail, but it actually flattens out through the back. So the V in front of the center fin is quite pronounced, and then it flattens out through the back. Normally you'd have that V coming through the back end to make your rail-to-rail surfing really easy, but because this tail comes in, it's so pinny and so narrow, it kind of doesn't need it. Having it come in from like a wide point up here to a very narrow tail, it would be quite easy to maneuver, and I'll talk more about it later. When you get your foot over it, you probably don't need that V. It would feel too, unsteady or whatever if that V flowed through. So You would have seen in our initial thoughts if you checked it out. If you haven't, I'll put a link to it somewhere in this video. It might be like there or there or there. Anyway, hopefully it pops up somewhere for you to check on. But yeah, when I was chatting to Justin about this board, he was in San Diego, I was in Australia. I hadn't seen one on the flesh. I kind of saw it as a mid-length for, you know, 2 foot cruiser, rip bowls, little point breaks, bit of paddle power, you know, can maybe hold its own in some bigger stuff. Went and got the board and actually was like, this actually feels like it's like the ultimate kind of step up for bigger and better waves. So, you know, after the initial thoughts, I was pretty keen to film it in bigger and better waves. To my luck, we did get some bigger and better waves, but unable to get some really kind of good, juicy stuff on film. We did get some waves that were better. And what I did like from these waves, it was a little bit bigger, but I was surfing this kind of sucky peak that had a bit of a rip. Had I been on a short board, I would not have got into these waves where I wanted to. I would have been sitting right in on where it was kind of sucking up on the bank, you know, making getting into them hard and making like the drop and take off quite hard. So I was super stoked to be on, even though the waves, you know, they weren't 6, 8, 10 foot, they were kind of in that 3 to 5 foot range. I was frothing to ride this to get into them nice early, get in with a bit of a swoop and a bit of a speed before they sucked up, before I was having to drop or before I just wasn't getting into them at all. I did surf it on some other days when it was a little bit bigger. Didn't get footage, but unfortunately, but yeah, felt really good. Has a lot of paddle power in the front. So 42 liters. I'm 5'10 and a half, almost 5'11, about 92 to 95 kilos. This is 42 liters. I think my regular shortboards now probably sit around 6'0", 32 liters. It's 42 liters, so 10 liters extra foam, and it's also epoxy. So some people say epoxy has a little bit more float, a little more paddle power, a little more lively. I'll let you be the judge of that, but definitely got into bigger waves, better waves a lot easier and earlier, and you know, ups your wave count and whatnot. But getting into waves that are a bit more critical, you want to get into them early. You don't want to be like scratching over the shelf and dropping them late. And this thing was absolutely perfect. So lots of paddle power in this front end to make surfing, like getting into waves really easy. But what was really cool was actually when you got sections, when you wanted to surf, you know, vertically, when you wanted to do more critical turns, let's call it more shortboard-esque surfing. This really tight, narrow performance pintail really let you do that. And what I was really happy was, you know, really torn about putting a tail pad on a board like this. First of all, it's an absolutely beautiful board aesthetically, and I hope the film does it justice, but the thing is absolutely beautiful. Felt like a bit of a kook, might have ended up on sad pads or something like that, putting a tail pad on the board, but I'm really happy I did because it does have a lot of performance surfing about it, and you really could jam into sections, into turns. So, you know, feeling really comfortable on my back foot, always surfed with a tail pad. Having been a surfer for 30 years, while tail pads have been quite prevalent, I've always had a tail pad on my back of my boards. Struggle to surf without them. I put my foot on a bit of an angle where I sit up on the ball and the arch. So when I don't have one, I really, really struggle. And if I don't have one, it has to be a very cruisy board where you're not, you know, trying to turn it vertically or do any kind of performance surfing. So stoked to put a tail pad on it because it was a very, very capable board. And that came from, yeah, all that paddle power and width at the front, making it really easy to get into waves nice and early, upping your wave count and getting into critical waves earlier, but also getting on that nice tight pintail and really jamming turns and really feeling the performance of the back end of this surfboard. So in the Jawnt, we're able to check out a whole range of fins, and I could go with this twin, thruster, quad, everything worked and everything had a purpose. So initial thoughts, I said, hey, reach out, let me know what fins you want to see. There were some specific fin recommendations, but people really wanted to see the board as a twin fin. So we checked it out as a twin keel, and we also checked it out as a twin plus stabilizer. So as a twin keel, I didn't really enjoy it. And I tried the K2s and I tried the Rastas. Both great fins, fins that I've liked in other boards that are a keel fin. Just didn't really gel with it as a twin fin. I know people froth out on twin fins. I know people love larger twin fin mid-lengths and big twin pins. It surfed, it went pretty well. It went as well as some of those other boards I've surfed, but that didn't really unlock what the board had as its full potential. So the keel kind of didn't feel like it had the full drive that I wanted. When it was smaller, it felt okay. When it was bigger, it felt like it was a little bit skatey. Didn't feel like it was getting ahead and projecting as well as it could. As a twin plus one, felt really good. I rode the T1s by Futures and they felt really, really good. Really nice pivot. And I'll talk more about it later, because on this board, you kind of end up moving your foot up and down between a performance shortboard and like more of a mid-length kind of cruisy board. And what the twin plus one did, it allowed me to maybe have my foot in kind of the wrong spot, but still allowed to create some pivot. Because that center fin, you know, didn't have as much drag between turns. It kind of pivoted off the two larger fins. The T1s are fiberglass, but they're not too firm. They're kind of soft, they're very forgiving. Really good twin plus one stabilizer set. So they're the T1s by Futures. In the initial thoughts, we checked out the quads. So we checked out the AM1 Tech Flex in the front, AM2 Tech Flex in the rear, and I really, really enjoyed them. They had lots of drive, they had lots of speed, lots of natural get up and go. When you do like a wrap, they felt like they were on rails. There wasn't too much they couldn't do. But like I said, I found myself in this board moving up and down the board a lot. So I'd have my foot like up here, and there's a couple of like little dents. The board doesn't dent too much, but a little couple of pressures where I had my foot up here, my back foot, when I wanted to cruise, when I wanted to trim, when I wanted to kind of float down the line. You'll see some clips where I'm standing up the board a little bit more. But then when I wanted to really jam it, I'd have to get my foot right back and over the fins. If I didn't have my foot right over the fins on the quad, I'd have a pretty bad time. So lots of drive, lots of fun, super fast, but not right over them. The board kind of wouldn't pivot and turn how I wanted to. And that's where the thruster fixed things up. So this is the new Dark Arts Futures thruster set. For those that are familiar with the Futures ride number, these are a 3.8. They're a speed controlling fin. And it's a large template. And what's great, the center fin is slightly thinner, so a little bit more flex, and it's also slightly smaller. So those that are like the AMs and stuff, the AMs are a thruster set that have a smaller center fin, and so do the Dark Arts thruster. This felt absolutely perfect. Wasn't too kind of pivoty and skatey like the 2+1. Didn't matter as much if I didn't have my foot like jammed right over the fins like the quads. It was kind of the best of everything. The thrusters had really nice get up and go speed, good drive, would instantly take off and have speed, but I could also turn them. So, you know, if I'm standing up here trying to get some high line kind of trim and speed, felt pretty good. But you know, I really wanted my foot back here to turn, which is just over that center fin. But if my foot was up here a bit, it was still okay. Whereas with the quad, it really had to be jammed back here. So yeah, if you're checking out the Jawnt, you know, you can work with most fin sets. Like I said, twin, thruster, quad, but the Dark Arts thrusters by Futures felt absolutely perfect. Had most of the drive a quad had, and had a lot of that really nice pivot that you felt out of the twin, but it was just a good blend of everything. So you're checking it out, I'd try and get your hands on the Dark Arts thrusters by Futures fins. Overall, I was frothing on the Jawnt. Chatting to Justin for a while before heading over to the States to pick it up, saw it online. You know, it looked like a mid-length that was probably going to be a bit of fun, surf pretty well. But you know, once I got my hands on the board, my arms around it, and then got in the water, absolutely fell in love with it. I love the Dark Arts construction. I love what Justin's doing. I get lots of comments, like I see people look at boards, they look at the Dark Arts construction, you know, it adds a few dollars to the cost of a board. It's cheaper than your regular PU constructions, and it's more, it's more expensive than your regular PU constructions, and a little bit more than some other EPS constructions. This is my second Dark Arts board, and I'm not going to say boards are indestructible, because I think all boards at some point break, and I actually think that's kind of a good thing, because I think they need to flex, you know, they need to live and they need to move, but they do feel solid. They don't feel like, you know, they want to, you know, to break. They don't dent too much. You know, a few other epoxy constructions I find really strange. I always kind of struggled with some different firewires and that. Sometimes the decks don't dent from your feet. I want my boards to have a little bit of a foot pressure, like, you know, where my feet go, I feel that's very natural. These do that. They don't go super deep like some other boards. It just feels like a really good kind of blend of everything. Also with some of like the EPS and epoxy technologies, Sometimes they can feel a little bit shattery when it gets bigger, when it gets choppier. They feel a bit shattery. They feel like they're out of the place, like they want smaller waves and smoother water. This isn't so bad. Like some of the clips we've got, you know, it's a little bit bigger, kind of in that 3 to 5 foot range. There's a bit of a sideshore wing coming across some of the waves, but this thing is fine. It absolutely plows through it like a, you know, a heavier, more kind of normal board, but it feels really good. So I feel like it's a really good kind of mix of everything of, you know, that liveliness of EPS, the solidity and what you're used to from PU and stuff. And also it's light, but not too light that it's shattery and bigger and, you know, kind of choppier conditions. So really good blend. And I also feel like they've got a bit more of a lifespan to them. They dent and do the things you want a surfboard to do, but not, you know, a huge amount where, you know, they look pretty trashy in that after a few surfs. Look, overall, frothed out on the Jawnt. If you get a chance to check one out, I recommend you do. Awesome in that range of mid-lengths we checked out, from like, you know, Chile mid-length to the Channel Islands, all that sort of stuff. Really sits up there as a true performer. Very, very versatile across a whole range of positions, conditions. And yeah, you can get these. Justin is in San Diego in California, but I believe soon Dark Arts and Justin Ternes Surfboards will be available in Australia. So, you know, reach out to Justin, his Instagram, Dark Arts Surf, to learn more a little bit about the boards and if you want to get your hands on one. Again, thank you to Justin, everyone at Justin Ternes Surfboards and Dark Arts Surf for the opportunity to check this out, and hopefully you get a chance to check this out too. Thanks so much for watching.